everybody, and welcome to the round 3 edition of the Collingwood Magpies BigFooty Podcast. I am the Mighty T, returning to the chair after a week's absence, and after the lovable super mod, and she is a super mod in her own right, Magpie girl, took over hosting duties last week in my absence. This week, I have a little bit of an unfamiliar face to the Collingwood board, a man who spends most of his time dwelling in the fantasy realms of football. We have ClarkeM on tonight. ClarkeM, come in.
G'day, mate. How are
you? Yeah, look, not too bad. It's always a nice Monday coming off a win, and watching the boys get up against Sydney again. But your story intrigues me, mate. What turned you away from the Collingwood board and onto the fantasy board?
I wouldn't say I was turned away from the Collingwood board. It was more just I got busy when I was finishing year 12 a few years ago and started university and whatnot, and I kind of found the fantasy football a bit more of a nicer place to chime in every day or every second day. And now in the fantasy board, I'm quite well known and whatnot, and now I go to the Collingwood board and no one seems to recognise me. But yes, I did participate in a lot of Collingwood threads and topics back in probably 2007, 2008, and yeah, I'm trying to get back in, so hopefully this podcast is one of the big major steps for that.
Well, we'll call this your reintroduction to the Collingwood audience, and as we'll find out a bit later on, you've got some ties to some of our VFL adversaries, but that's for later on, and we can also get some fantasy football advice off you later as well. But I first want to start with this past week. Yeah, well, mate, I'm going to need all the help I can get, but we'll start with this weekend's game against Sydney. 12-goal turnaround. Get a chance to watch much of the match, Clark?
I did. Usually I don't get a chance to watch many of the football matches, unfortunately, due to work commitments. But I was lucky enough on Saturday to watch the Mighty Pies get up, and I was very happy with that. I'm sure everyone else was. But to get that win against Sydney, especially such a tight match, especially at the end there, that was special. Don't want to go all Bruce on you, but I really, really saw some pretty good signs coming from that.
And, it almost serves a double purpose. Because, yes, we get off the line and we get off the mark. It's nice to get the 4 points. But, the amount of heat that Buckley copped, in the wake of that loss against Fremantle, I don't think was entirely justified. And I think this might give him a little bit more breathing room. This is, now I think it's 12 occasions the last 12 occasions we've won 11 against Sydney. I mean, is there such thing as, having a bogey team, in your opinion?
Well, they kind of said the same thing, 5 seasons ago. We still had the good record up there against them back then and still do, which is quite remarkable, really. I'll tell you what, I'll take it.
Oh, you just take it every day of the week.
Yeah.
And it extends for so long. It's just, 2 different coaches, 2 different coaching styles, and yet we can still go up there and, and look, I was concerned at times in the match because we have been such an inconsistent team recently. But you know what? It is good to get off the line and hopefully build towards better things. Talking about getting off the line, VFL started this week in full. Personally, it's my favourite game of the week to go down and watch. Love the atmosphere, love being down at Victoria Park. And we spoke off air about this, but it appears to me that you're affiliated to our opposition.
For that weekend, yes. I work for the North Ballarat Roosters as a statistician, so I'll tell you what, it's probably my favourite round of the VFL calendar when we play Collingwood at Vic Park. So I was happy for either team to get a win, really. But obviously I was a little bit upset the Roosters lost. But some good sides from Collingwood, and you know what, it was just a good day. So
it's a good time to check out your acting skills when you're secretly happy that one team gets up and the other doesn't on the bus home. And just sorry boys. Another familiar face in opposition colours. I believe I saw Gavin Brown out at the game this past week.
Yes, Gavin Brown is working with North Melbourne this year as an assistant coach, I believe. So he'll be working closely with the Roosters as a development coach, I believe. I think he's taken over Jason Lappin, I think it was, role from last year. So, yeah, I'll tell you what, it's bloody good working with a Collingwood legend.
Oh, it seems surreal to me, and you know, he just seems like such a good bloke. And if he's anything like the way he plays, he seems like a pretty solid unit and a pretty good individual to be around.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this year. Hopefully get to do a bit more work with him at the Roosters. But yeah, I've still got Collingwood in my heart.
Well, let's get into the game a little bit. You said you keep the stats for the Roosters. What stood out for you from a statistics point of view? I mean, who really, really controlled or really influenced the game?
For your team or my team, mate?
Oh, well, they're both. No, let's just say in Collingwood colours for the time being.
Well, in terms for Collingwood, basically Clarke, Kennedy, and Thomas were the main possession getters. They all got in the 20s. One good thing from Mighty Clarke on the weekend, who obviously is my favourite player, hence the username, but he had 92% kicking efficiency, disposal efficiency, sorry, which was very good to see from someone that's trying to push for the side. But in terms of contested possessions, not many, so that might not be a great thing. He did get a lot of cheap kicks. Ben Kennedy was a very good player on the weekend. He kicked 2 goals, had a few inside 50s. I really like Ben Kennedy's work. One of the big things, though, I was a bit surprised about was Hudson against Eric Wallace in the ruck. Did you happen to get a look at that matchup?
I got a chance to watch most of the game and a lot of their contests. And gee, Wallace is an athletic beast, isn't he?
Oh, he's huge. He's huge. But I'll tell you what, he's only had 1 year or so in that, in the footy.
Yep.
In the footy, but he's had a huge pre-season and he's coming off really well this year in the few games that we've played so far. But would you believe it or not, but Wallace beat Hudson in the headouts.
Yeah, it's look, honestly, from my vantage point, it looked like he was getting the upper hand. It just seemed that when he was coming over the top, his superior leap was just letting him get to the ball a lot easier. And to get one up on a very experienced ruckman, when you compare their CVs in AFL, it's chalk and cheese. But that's pretty impressive by the young man.
Yeah, it was all credit to him. Hopefully, he can develop as well as Hudson too. I mean, Hudson's still a Collingwood player, so hopefully he gets better. But another player I want to quickly just touch on was Josh Thomas on the weekend. He had, according to our statistics, which may be not so much accurate, but is accurate enough, he had 10 clearances on the weekend, which was very, very impressive from the young kid. He only had just over 23 disposals we had him for. So in order to get 10 clearances from 23 disposals, I think he did a very good job.
So he's really in the clinches. I mean, that's from an outsider's point of view, that's what that would indicate to me. Would that be about right? Yeah,
definitely. I was focusing a lot more on North Ballarat in terms of my role, but the small glimpses that I saw from Josh Thomas, he really did impress me. He was a lot of contested ball, and I think he'll play a few games this year.
It's interesting when we talk about Marty Clarke having such a high disposal efficiency. And he gets that 25 to 30 metre kick just really spot on and perfect. And as you watch the Collingwood game over the weekend against Sydney, the foot skills really do let us down at times. I mean, could there be a place for a guy like that in the side, or does he just have too many limitations? I guess that's the big question, isn't it?
Well, yeah, just on the efficiency from the Collingwood game, it was 66% for Collingwood and then 68% for Sydney. And yeah. I think you could clearly tell from watching the game. But I'm not sure. I think efficiency isn't everything, but it definitely does help in terms of, you're getting the inside 50s, you're getting the scoring opportunities, which definitely did affect, Collingwood last week against Fremantle. I think we had a low inside 50 count. I can't remember exactly what, but this week we were able to get 66% disposal efficiency, and we ended up with 50 inside 50s, which is the average for last year for games. So I think we got lucky there. And in terms of Clarke making the side, I like to see him continue on in the VFL and continue this before he gets pushed in.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and this is the conundrum at the moment, because when we look at the Collingwood side, and Marty Clarke does fall into this category. We seem to have a lot of guys up in the top level. You've got your Beamses, your Pendleberries, probably Class Lumumba there. You got, despite the fact they had a low weekend, but you've got also a lot of guys who they play roles, and Marty Clarke is one of those blokes. Probably Sam Dwyer, I mean, but I want to focus on the game of one player over the week, and that's Tyson Goldsack. Now, Goldie's had 10 touches. I think he's only had the 4 marks and he's kicked 2 goals. Is that enough influence on the game to keep a guy like Tyson Goldsack in the side?
Well, I think we got lucky on the weekend having him in the side with Nathan Brown going down, because I think Bucks pushed him down back once that happened.
Yep.
I think the fact that Goldsack is a back and forward player, he's definitely very versatile, and I think he does play a very unique role in our side. So I think he should definitely stay in the Collingwood's 22. But on the weekend, look, you have your poor games. For example, Swanee, didn't have his best game, but he said himself he played the role that he thought he was expected to do, and he was happy with it. So I like to think that Goldsack did the same. And
I mean, it's slightly off topic, but I mean, does Swanee look injured to you? Because he doesn't look like he's playing right at the moment. I know people say he doesn't switch over until the halfway point of the season, but he looked a little bit hampered, at least from my point of view. I mean, did that come across to you at all?
Oh, I was at the pub on Saturday night watching the first half, and this old bloke next to me was just rattling on about how Swan's injured. He's no good. And I was sitting there going, no. You have your bad moments and your bad couple of games, but I wouldn't say he's injured. I think he's fine. Maybe it's just a time of the year where he's struggling to find his feet. And it's James Swan. He's a Brownlow medalist and a champion player. I'm sure he'll get back.
The other one that I like discussing with people is our ex-captain, Nick Maxwell, who undoubtedly had a really good game over the weekend.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was, and he stepped up to the occasion, and he's played really well. I mean, but I don't think it was a case of him elevating himself, which he did, obviously. But more to the point, I think it was as a result of the role that he played. I mean, do we have to orchestrate Nick Maxwell to play that loose man every week? I mean, is that how we're going to play our best football?
Well, it depends on the matchup. I think with Swans being such a good offensive side with Buddy Franklin and Tippett when he's in, that kind of style of play was definitely effective in our terms. I think how many intercept marks he had? He had 5 or 6, or quite a big number. Not to mention the amount of spoils he had and desperation efforts. I watched his game on the weekend, and I was so proud that he was still getting games at Collingwood. Like, he had so much doubt going into this game, and people were calling for his head after the first week against Fremantle, but he came out and he showed a brilliant game, and all credit to him. But not just to mention Nick Maxwell, he had plenty of good support around him.
Well, absolutely. And we're talking about a very young backline here. Ben Sinclair had 17 touches and I thought looked very comfortable. Second game only for Tommy Langdon. What did you think of him, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I got to see a bit of Tommy Langdon on the weekend. I liked it. He didn't have as good as a game from the Fremantle game, from what I'm led to believe, but as I said, under Nick Maxwell, there was a lot of players there that got a lot of the ball, especially in that half-back line with Ben Sinclair obviously dominating there. Sidebottom had a few touches, and I did get to see Tommy have a few as well, but I didn't get a chance to really look at Tommy Langdon too much. I was cheering a bit too much to Collingwood, getting to see them play it finally. So, but yeah, that other one there with Ben Sinclair, he really impressed me, especially off that half-back line. It kind of reminded me of Heath Shaw a little bit, just that running small little play.
That's almost sacrilegious.
Yeah, and it was. I was really happy. I was really happy from that back line.
Such a shame that he's done his hamstring and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Nathan Brown with his shoulder weakens an already weakened defensive unit. Then I shudder to think what the average games of the back line looks like now with Keefe. I think he's played less than 20. Frost has played 5. I mean, this is a team that's going to come under stress from a pretty potent, pretty quick scoring forward line like Geelong. I probably wouldn't want to have any of those backmen in my super coach team this week, would I?
Yeah, and look, I'm not the best at super coach, so to speak. Touch on that a bit later, but it'll be an interesting match. Obviously, we've had the wood on Geelong the last 3 matchups really, which is always in favour of us. But in terms of the back line, it'll be interesting this weekend. Geelong are very good. I mean, they showed that a few years ago when they smashed us in round 22. That was we won't talk about that, but they're a very good side. Even 2 years after that.
Well, the last we'll mention of that fateful year is that we haven't lost to them since that game, and we haven't lost to them under Nathan Buckley. So I mean, Geelong are always a team that historically, even back to 2007, in that preliminary final, that we've always matched up pretty well on. Different team now. It's a young team. And I am wondering, we are projecting forward to this weekend, and it's so important to build upon the win against Sydney. Where do you think we need to control the game in order to have a big influence on Saturday night?
Definitely the forward line, I reckon. I'm not sure if anyone would be with me there, but on the weekend, we had Travis Cloke playing, a bit more up the field. Jesse White didn't do all that much. We had Jamie Elliott kicking a few goals, but he was, I'll put it out there, he was a little bit selfish in a few moments. But I reckon in our forward line needs to improve, especially against such a good defensive side in Geelong. Although they've lost, they're pretty much their best defender in the modern era, really, with Scarlett going. But they are still a very good defensive side, and I think if we can pile on the score very quickly, we should be able to control the game from there.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that forward third for us has been a point where, if you watch us consistently over the last 12 months, it's the point where our attack breaks down completely. We can transition well defense through midfield, and there's that final kick that ends up being a bomb onto Travis's head. And you've got these big guys like Harry Taylor, Lonergan. You've also got Cory Enright if he plays this week. He's under an injury cloud. These guys are just going to, 3-on-1. Ball spills to the deck, and they're out the other end. And you're entirely right. The big issue I have is, we look at the weekend's game, 12 goals, 17 again. I mean, we've outscored Sydney by 10 scoring shots. I mean, how is goal scoring something that's so fundamental to our game? Something that all clubs, not just ours, are getting wrong. I mean, is there a problem? I mean, statistically speaking, is this a trend also through the VFL as well?
Well, just on that, I think they kicked 1 or 2 out of bounds with the full as well, so we'll keep that under wraps. But yeah, in the VFL, Collingwood won by 12 points, and literally they won by 12 points. I think it was 11 goals apiece by both sides, but Collingwood ended up having 12 more points than North Ballarat, and that's definitely not a positive. Collingwood were dominating most of that game until that last quarter, where North Ballarat got up and about, but they were lucky enough with that really good goal from Lockie Ferguson to take control of the match right in the last 5 minutes or so. But goal kicking the last few years, it has been interesting, definitely, especially Collingwood. When was it? I think it was about 2011 or 2010 maybe. I did go through all the games we won. We kicked more behinds than we did goals. It was some kind of interesting stat there, but yeah, it's as much as we say it needs to improve. You can't do anything about it. It's just one of those things where 1 week it'll go one way, the other week it'll go the other.
I guess the thing is, it's about trying to get those most accurate goal scorers back in the side. Travis, as much as we hate his brain fades and his inability to convert from straight in front, it's the player that he is. A guy like Alex Fasola, who I think on the weekend kicked 2 for Collingwood in the VFL. 1 sec, mate. He's got the numbers for me. This is why we need you around on the Collingwood board, man.
Yeah, definitely. Alex Fasola kicked 1 goal, 1 behind on the weekend.
1 goal, 1, and I think that was basically from the last quarter when he was, when he swung forward in the fourth, and he took a couple of contested marks. I mean, it's about getting your best goal scorers and your best shooters in, because at the end of the day, these opportunities don't come around very often. You look at Jeffrey Garlett for Carlton, who's streaming into goal unopposed, and he dribbles the ball into the post, and Richmond go on to kick the next 2 goals. It's something that's so fundamental, and yet we're still getting so wrong. Do you think we can get the win over Geelong this weekend?
Well, anything's possible, mate. Last year, I was stupid enough to select Geelong as a certainty. Uh,
Yeah.
but I tell you what, it worked. Collingwood ended up winning, and I was more than happy, really, to bear out of that, competition in my real life. But uh,
Yeah.
I think we can win. Collingwood have shown that we can compete, especially against Sydney, who are arguably one of the better sides in the league right now. Fremantle we'll just forget about for the moment. But definitely, I think Geelong, they're a young side, as you were just saying.
Mm.
They will compete pretty hard, and all credit to them. But the wood on them from the last three games is definitely in our favour. And I'd like to think Collingwood will get by 10 or so points.
Yeah, look, it's a positive outlook, and I like that. And it's one that I shared, to be honest. I came looking at the fixture. I didn't think realistically we could win the first two games. We've gotten one, but I think the next four are not only winnable, but they should be near certainties if we want to make finals. And this game here, despite the good form that Geelong have showed, I mean, okay, they did well against Adelaide. It's at Simmons Stadium. They've done well against Brisbane, but it's Brisbane. With the exception, I think, of their superstars, I'm not really concerned about the rest of the team. They play well as a unit, and I like them, and I like watching Geelong. But I reckon we can get up by about 4 goals. About 4 goals this weekend. Let's close out the evening show. I want a bit of fantasy football advice. Just give us what in terms of, you're not a super coach man, as you mentioned before. What is the fantasy footy, or what sort of fantasy footy gaming do you delve into?
Well, I'm glad you asked, mate. The fantasy footy league that's on BigFooty is it has its own board. If you go have a look down in the footy game section, it's honestly a lot of fun. It's all about a random simulator. Basically, you are the player. You don't do anything but banter with the opposition players and just talk a whole lot of nonsense. You talk about statistics and stuff. But basically what happens is you're part of a team. I'm part of the West Coast Wonders. There's a team called the Geelong Gumbies. There's a team called the Eastside Hawks. Then not many of them are affiliated with AFL club supporters and whatnot. But basically it's a simulator. The players' names get fed through a program created by a moderator called Mobinfura, if you know who that is.
Yep.
And he created that years and years ago, and he still visits the board quite often. But we're in our 17th season at the moment, and it's a bit of fun.
That's impressive.
Oh, it's been going since 2001. This competition.
Wow.
And the finals are just happening right now. But one of the best things about it is anyone can join any team at any time. So if you want to come join a team that's playing finals, go ahead, go sign up in the board. There's plenty of people in there that will help you out, definitely. If you want, come join the Wonders, but I'm more than happy to see any Collingwood supporter or anyone else that's listening just come and join the Fantasy Footy League, because honestly, it's a lot of fun. I run the podcast down there, and it's really taken off this season.
Well, there you go, guys. That's that's a hell of a good advertising spin. I like it. I mean, anything that gets us more involved, as a community on Big Footy, and anything that gets us more involved with footy as a whole, I think is a good thing. There's too much stress to worry about. To worry about it in general life. Good to get away from it and have a bit of a laugh. Clark, thank you so much for coming on.
Not a problem, mate.
I do apologise for keeping us all up late, but thank you for coming on. It's been great to have you, and I want to see you around the main board a bit more, around the main Collingwood board, because your know-how and your expertise, especially when it comes to the statistical stuff, is it's valuable.
Hopefully, mate. I'm trying, as I said, and hopefully once this podcast is up, I can come and join the Collingwood faithful a bit more.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Everyone else will be glad to have you. This is it for another week. Good luck to the Pies on the weekend, and I'll see you all next week.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. ClarkeM here. Unfortunately, Trade Draft doesn't have a rant for us this week, but I'm sure he'll be back for next week's episode with something in store for us. Well, this podcast seemed to go for a little bit less than anticipated, and given that I've been entrusted with the editing duties this week, I thought that, I might try and talk to everyone for a couple of minutes and try to fill the gap left void, although I doubt I could ever fulfill the bar set by TD. Anyway, I'm going to try and entertain you with my voice despite feeling as if you're already probably sick of it from the last 24 minutes or so, but I'd just like to talk about briefly the recent re-signings of Brown, Sidebottom and Reid. 3 premiership players and 3 young men that I know that the Magpie Army just love hearing about. This was announced today, Wednesday, the 2nd of April 2014, and it will mean that Ben Reid, the currently injured big man who was a forward-turned-defender, will be a Magpie until the end of 2018. Nathan Brown, also currently injured, has signed on to a new deal that will see him a Pie until the end of 2016, and the smiling assassin, Steel Sidebottom, has also agreed to don the black and white until 2016. These 3 signings coming all at the same time by 3 premiership players after the win against the Sydney Swans is brilliant for the club. In terms of commitment, we can already see that these players are enjoying being at Collingwood, and with quite a gruelling season ahead of us fighting it out against the best teams in the competition, it's a huge positive to see the boys put pen to paper. I still believe we haven't seen the best from these players, especially Sidey, so it makes me proud. It makes me blissfully happy to know that he'll be a Magpie for a lot longer and hopefully for life. I hope everyone cheers loud and proud come Saturday night for these players and their teammates, because going up against a team like Geelong, we're going to need to do everything we can to get those 4 points. This has been ClarkeM, and go the Mighty Magpies.